thank you, especially to thank the valuers in Saudi Arabia for giving us especially as it relates to valuation of damaged vehicles, which will surely be of great impact to our members. Sharing knowledge with people is very important because nobody has a monopoly of knowledge. And this administration is one of the cardinal destiny of this administration is capacity building. And we need to learn and continue to learn so that the way we deliver our services to our stakeholders, then they will really know the use and usefulness of our services. I want to also appreciate the chairman, the secretary, and the entire team of the Professional Association of Plant and Equipment Valuation, ably led by our own Kevin Ophili. He has done a lot to get this thing on board. And I'm happy today that the panelists are present here. We are ready to learn. And I know that at the end of the day, we will all be happy that we attended this webinar. It's a specialized aspect of evaluation. And we are very, very happy with the collaboration we are having with the Saudis. I also want to say here that in 2019 at Singapore, I think I met, whether I can't remember his name, but I know there was one of those valuers that came from Saudi. We met in Singapore. And I'm happy that the relationship is growing stronger and stronger. And I hope our Saudi will continue to support our bid to host the IVSC conference come 2024. We have presented our matter before the IVSC executive, and we hope we'll hear from them soon. We want to do more than what the Saudi has done, but we also know that the Saudi, of course, will also assist us because it's always good to learn from those that have done something before. So on that note, I want to welcome the panelists. I want to welcome all the participants. And Mr. Moderator, I appreciate you so much. God bless everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. John, our president, for the opening remarks. So today we are now moving to the presentation on valuation of damaged vehicles. I have Ibrahim and Febbrail. They are the ones who are going to present. I now leave the time to you so that you can proceed.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you so much, Mr. John, for your briefing. I would like to thank everybody who is participating with us today and their interest in valuation cars and how it will be impacted the market in Nigeria. First of all, we will start to talk about taqeeim, how it started, how is the valuation sector of vehicle damage assessors is developed in Saudi from 2016 till now. And we will discuss more in details how to evaluate a car in details and keep the value of the car maintained. First of all, taqeeim started in 2012 by a royal decree. We started our activities as real estate valuation in 2013. Then more sectors was added to our roles in Saudi. That after real estate, we go into business valuation, then VDA, vehicle damage assessment, one of our roles was added, as it's touched a lot of people in Saudi. When you say, when we speak in major vehicle damage assessment, it is not a major role from Taqeem, but it is given to Taqeem because it is touch a lot of people, and it affects a lot of majority of individuals on the market. And Taqeem felt that we need to regulate the market, organize it, and give the assessors on the market the accreditability that they need to meet the requirement of valuation. In 2017, we launched our machinery and equipment valuation, and in the last 2 years, we are managing to have more and more about precious metals and jewelries valuation also. Now, in order to be accredited valuer in Taqeem, you need to have educational qualification through Taqeem. Then you need to acquire your membership through us also. After that, you can be licensed to be accredited valuer who is doing valuation reports. This is the procedure how to become a valuer here in Saudi. When we speak about vehicle damage assessment in Saudi, we started this program in 2016. The program was aiming to regulate the market more and more. And we will see now a previous history about the market, how it was we are doing the valuation. If we go in 2016, this is the way how is the valuers who is not licensed, they are doing on their vehicle damage assessment. On a backyard or in a parking lot, the car came, an uncertified person will go have a look on a car and write his damage assessments. This is the previous thing. After that, Taqeem said we need to regulate this particular sector. We need to make it managed, put standards, train people who is doing this type of business, and make them accredited. We decided to analyze the situation in Saudi. And what we found there is no setup of standards like other sectors. Long paper procedures will take a person who had an accident around 15 days to get his claim sorted. The estimation procedures also, it is different. If you go to Riyadh, it is totally different than Jeddah. If you go to north of Saudi, it's different than south of Saudi. And this one makes the valuation totally different between different areas. And what we found also that our valuers at that time, they have no idea about the new vehicle technologies that will affect also the value of the car. And we decided also to add something about the valuation on these technologies. When Taqeem started, it will start with also regulator side, and we need a participation or involvement of private sectors. We have mutual agreements or mutual contracts with government entities to help our procedure to be launched, like Central Bank and the Ministry of Interior, that we will regulate this sector for them. Also, we have a partnership with private sectors, like we have Najm is a private entity that helps insurance companies with their IT solutions and with their operations here on the market. We have spare parts suppliers. We have private investors we are targeting them to build new centers as separated center for valuation. And we have also colleges and universities that will participate with us in their operations. When تقدير started, تقدير aimed to have better claim processing procedure by reducing this 14 days to as minimum as they can, and we achieved the 3 days claim reimbursement at this time. We need to involve the private sector more and more. We need to launch our training and accreditation program, and we need to digitalize the process also and make it as much as we can as a seamless process from the day when came to our when the car comes to our تقدير centers until the customer gets his report. It will be electronically achieved, and when he submits his claim, it will be through electronic channels also. First of all, what we start to drafting our technical standards. When we have the study in 2014, we saw that there is no setup of standards for evaluating a car on the market. And let me speak about worldwide. There is nothing called technical standards for damage valuation, because this sector is governed by different entities, and if you look at it, the insurance companies is regulating more and more, not as a government side. From that point of view, we start to draft our technical standards. After that, we drafted our training programs with partnership with Thatcham Research in UK. And after that, we localize these programs to meet our requirements. And in final stages, we get our localized program accredited by the Institute of Motor Industry in UK also, to have the program more accreditability and global recognition. We launched our training center. We developed 2 levels of courses. We developed also 12 continuous professional development programs that aim to increase the knowledge and know-how of our valuers. We trained more than 400 valuers all over Saudis, and we get 80 of them fully accredited by the IMI. Our digital transformation platform that aims to digitalize the experience and make valuation more easier, more robust. All stakeholders that they have any relation with the claim, they should be notified with the report when it will be issued. We have a clear statistics about how many car valued, how many minor damage, heavy damage, medium damage on the market, that we have. This is statistics that we can improve. We can get training programs also improved through that. All this digital transformation process, it's easy. It makes our job easy in تقييم, and make also the other parties of the accident or the damage involved and without any hassles. Let's speak about the numbers. Let's see. Last year only, we got 1.2 million reports issued by تقدير centers, and it's a huge number. And for the market as ROI, or return of investment, in 2016, when we started, the average claim was $3,200. But now, after تقييم started with the training and accreditation and improving guys' abilities and how they can issue a report in professional manner, we reduced this claim average claim values to $1,400. Private sector involvement. Without the private sector, we will not have that much coverage in the kingdom, because government alone cannot let's say, cover the whole market. And we are alone also. We can't hire and maintain the relation with the damage itself. That's why we go from to regulate the market, and after that, they give investors or accredited valuers the ability to practice their business under registered centers. This centers shifts the experience from like what we saw before in 2016, from a place without any equipment, without any abilities to evaluate the car, to dedicated centers with all equipment standardized all over Saudis. The customer will have the same experience all over. If you see, it is well constructed. There is a place where you can take your time to evaluate the damage. And mostly our centers can achieve around from 400 to 800 cars valued per day. And this one makes the process more faster, get accurate report with the accurate equipment. If we go to the core of our thing, that how is the valuation and repairing the car affects the car, I think Mr. Faberain can help us more and more in this topic, and he can discuss the valuation and the effect of the damage on the car. I will leave the mic for you, Faberain.
Thank you very much for that. Hopefully everybody can hear me. And just give me a moment while I sort out my screen. I think you need to take your screen share off. Okay. Is that showing through okay? Okay, so we've heard from the valuation of accidents for the purposes of insurance and claims and everything else. But what happens after that in the world of repairs? So what we have is the effects of damage repairs on the car's value in terms of, if the car is repaired, is there a financial effect on that vehicle? Just bear with me a moment. So what do you think the value of this car should be if we look at this car? Well, actually, we'll just move through the exercise pretty swiftly. So we have some comparables here. So we have the make and the model being a Mazda 6 from 2017, a Mazda 6 from 2018, and a Mazda 6 from 2019. And as you can see, there's a difference in mileage between those years. And obviously, the less older the vehicle is, the mileage is less. Specification, there's a few variants. We have a comparable one at a full specification in terms of the extras you get with the vehicle, and the remaining two are on basic. The general condition is good, very good, and very good as a comparison level. And then we have a number of owners. And what we have there is a overview of a recommended market value. So we have the 2017 at 58,000, 2018 at 64,000, and then the 2019 at 66,000. So clearly, the older a vehicle gets, the depreciation it will enjoy, the same as most things in life. So most of us will suggest that the value will be around 60,000. So as a quick reference and you'll look at that vehicle and give an assumption. Your assumption might be based on some slight knowledge around cars. Most of us have actually bought a car, and when we are after a specific brand, we will have an idea of the price. But the reality for this particular vehicle is it's worth zero. And what is the reason why that car would be worth nothing, or in other words, be valueless? Well, if we look at what's happened to it before, we can see a range of damage that's been inflicted on this vehicle from a previous accident. And although you can see the rear of the car has been hit quite extensively, the damage will progress further than what the eye can see. So the floor will be damaged internally, the chassis legs, the damage may have migrated as far as directly under the passenger compartment, for example. When you have a car like such as this, one that should be a total loss or a write-off, there is cases where these vehicles will actually go and get repaired. So in this instance, we can see the rear end is now removed from the car, which suggests that there is a donor vehicle and it's most likely sourced within a scrapyard. Now, this kind of practice was common in a lot of places throughout the world, and especially in Europe 40 years ago and earlier. But now, really, it's kind of unacceptable. So if you have a non-recommended repair, will it use the genuine parts or not? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Will there be use of incorrect tooling and equipment that may also be old technology? And when I say old equipment, it could be a simple thing like a welder that is not digital and up to modern standards. It may not always have a competent staff or poorly trained individuals who are working on the vehicles. And the recommended repair method was not used at all. Now, almost every single manufacturer has a recommended repair method to carry out the repairs on the vehicle. And they also have a recommended set of tools and equipment that should be used. So if we use in reference, for example, welding aluminium, most manufacturers would suggest that we have a machine with a specification that would say run at 270 amps because of the way aluminium reacts to the welding operation. And this is to make sure that the joining method is as it should be and as good as something we would find in a factory. The rear end of the car has been removed. The natural seams are not used. Now, when I say natural seams, what I mean is when a car is manufactured in a factory, it's like a big jigsaw. It's lots of parts interwoven together, joined and joined and joined. And when you initiate repairs, normally you'll look for these exact factory joining areas, and then you will initiate a new component in that area. There is instances where this can't be done. And when it cannot be done, we still refer to the recommended method to carry out the job. So we may have to make a cut somewhere else. However, that cut has been tested and crash tested on vehicles that have been repaired in a particular testing environment. Gas, or commonly known as oxyacetylene, is used for welding. So instead of MIG-MAG welding, electric welding, where we use a filler wire, there's a gas plant being used. And this is very harmful to the actual materials when you're welding. Hot soldering, which is referred to as brazing, is used as well, but incorrectly. And it's incorrect because of two things. Number one, it's being applied with gas. And secondly, only a certain type of brazing wire should be used on a structural component. Otherwise, this is restricted to outer panels only. So you can think about having a really weak weld in a very structural place. The heat transfer across the materials will be roughly 1,600 degrees. Now, remember that figure, because this is very effectual on certain materials that the vehicle is likely to be made with. So what we need to do is understand the structure of a vehicle and the materials that are used to construct it, because this is key to carrying out repairs successfully and correctly, and at the same time, this will maintain the actual value of the vehicle after a repair has been completed. So there's a little diagram there, and it gives you an idea of aluminium that's being used, and high strength steels and ultra high strength steels. And if we look at the ultra high strength steel end of this, you'll see that that's highlighted in red, and that comprises quite a lot of the components that are around the passenger compartment, which is key to safety for the individuals inside when you're having an accident.
Ferdinand,
Yeah.
you mean that the car lost of its value because it is not repaired in a correct way, correct?
Yes. Ultimately.
But now when a regular customer saw the car on the first picture, he will not notice any difference between the car and its original manufacturer. It is painted shiny and looks nice and even.
Yeah.
But you said it is worth nothing, or it is worth zero. Can we explain why it is worth zero?
Well, if we took that's a valid point. Most people only see the finished product, nice shiny paint. Your door gaps might be correct, for example. But if we put the vehicle on the ramp and do a closer inspection, we may find that there's kinks in the chassis. We may find that there's areas that have been obviously welded that should not be welded, and the weld lines are not in the correct place. You could have an issue with the car physically driving on the road, because if the chassis is not aligned properly, that means the mechanical parts are not aligned properly. So you could suffer some very basic things like extra tire wear, which means replacing the tires more often. Or the car may pull to one side under braking, which again will make it unsafe. Taking a closer look at the paintwork, sometimes the keen eye can spot that a car has been painted, and during the preparation, whether it was not very good, you may notice scratches that lie beneath the surface of the outer coatings. So there's many ways to look at it, but once you've diagnosed that fact and you're willing to pay for this vehicle, suddenly you're going to say, well, actually, I'm not going to pay this amount because this car has had so many things done to it. I don't even know if it's safe anymore.
Yes, Ferdinand. Like a valuer like me, how do I sort of like identify those things? Well, like in the case, like I'm doing valuation of a car which has been not properly repaired according to the specifications demanded by the manufacturer. How do I know what are things that I will notice?
Well, this is
not properly done.
Yeah, but this is what I've just said then, is you put the vehicle on a ramp, you lift it up. Once you go under a vehicle, you can find many telltale signs of things, whether they've been correct or not. And this is the least shiny part of the car. Typically, it's not painted like the upper body. So it's very hard to hide things that are apparently wrong. You can cover over with body sealer and everything else. But if you see an area that is got new body sealer all over it that's been sprayed, then that should set the alarms ringing. You really need to look a bit deeper. So you open the bonnet, you'll look inside, you'll check all the gaps around the vehicle. Are they all the same on each, from one side to the other? You check the driving of the vehicle. How is it running? There's many ways of looking at the vehicle to determine. If we look at the second-hand car market, for example, a person who's going to buy a second-hand car, in other words, a second-hand car dealer, will notice these things because this is prime importance for him that he doesn't buy a car or take in a trade-in that is going to be absolutely nowhere near the value he would assume it would be if it was in good condition. And you know, you'll lose your sale, it will disappear. And once the car has been through the repair process and finishes back on the road, once you get through that, it causes a lot of grief further down the line. Legally, Different countries have different ways of dealing with this. If you want to, you know, go back to the original repairer. For instance, in the UAE, United Arab Emirates, when you go for your yearly vehicle inspection, one of the things they do there now is inspect the vehicle for all these types of things underneath to ascertain if it's had a previously bad repair done. And they can actually remove the vehicle off from the road if they feel it's had a really bad repair done outside of vehicle manufacturers. So hope that answers the question. There's many different ways. So continuing, issues with part panel replacement. When we say part panel, sorry,
Vonen, I've got a question to Ibrahim. You talked about Taqdeer, which is responsible for inspection of the or assessing the damage of the vehicle when it is involved in an accident.
Yeah.
After repair, does Taqdeer do the same thing, like looking if it is properly repaired?
We help the market with this type of issues. Now we have a record of each accident and each valuated vehicle on the market. That means when the customer goes to buy a used or second-hand vehicle, he can request a report of a car if it has been valuated before through us or not. And he can see the pictures and the severity of the accident. Then he can decide if he want to buy this car with this type of accident or not. And this type of services help a lot of people here in Saudi to avoid car with heavy damage, like the car we saw before. And this car is a live example from the market here. The owner of the car can fix it, but when he is going to sell it again, he will suffer from selling it because the accident is reported, the valuation report is reported also. Everyone, anyone interested to see the actual damage of the car, it is already recorded. But now, why he fix it? He thinks that is in this way he can save the money of his vehicle. But on real case, he lost money, and maybe he will lose his life also in this type of vehicle who paid money for that. Because it is not safe anymore to drive this car with this type of accident.
Okay, Ibrahim, another question. What happens, suppose I'm involved in an accident, how is the process done until to the point where you have mentioned that all information is recorded?
Let me give you a brief in 2016 and what is the difference now. In 2016, when you have an accident, you will call the police will issue a report, then they will, the police will tell you go to 3 different workshops to assess the damage. After that, you need to go to 3 spare parts provider to give you the spare parts value. This journey will take you at least 3 days. Until that, after that, you will get the 3 reports from workshop, the 3 reports from spare parts, and you submit it to the police department again. They will stamp it, put it in envelope, and they will tell you, go and submit your claim to the insurance company. And that one, to submit a claim in the insurance company, will take you from 2 to 3 days, because you need to go physically to the insurance company, submit the claim. But after 2016, when Taqdeer came and become live on the market, you will have an accident, police will come, issue a report. You are requested only to visit Taqdeer Center. They will issue the report, and the report directly will be sent together with the valuation of the repair and the valuation of spare parts prices. After the valuation is done, the report will be sent directly to the insurance company, and the insurance company will pay you money directly after the accident. That means the waste of time that happens between 5 to 10 days, it is all gone through, and it is only 3 steps from the customer to get his money back from the insurer. And this is the whole process here in Saudi now. It saved a lot of time, a lot of effort, and makes the process much and much easier. But I have another question for Bernard. This type of accident that you showed us, we can repair it in safe way, and we can keep the value of the car as it is, or there is no way we need to throw the car as a total loss?
Well, as you know, this is all going to be down to the price of the parts versus the overall value of the vehicle if it was in a good condition. So,
and if we assume the spare parts value is cheap and the labor rates also is acceptable, there is a way to bring this car back
yes,
to the road safe?
Yes. And there's very rare exceptions where you wouldn't be able to buy a particular part. Otherwise, you would be, because if we took that rear end, we can buy the rear quarter panels, we can buy the rear panel, we can get the boot floor. Possibly we've got to replace one of the rear legs, or maybe they are repairable if they're done the correct way. And then obviously your boot lid and then your lights and bumper and things like that. But yes, if the price is right, as they say, then you can continue to repair it.
And we will maintain the same value of the car as it is out from factory, or like what we say, the market value of the car will be returned the same.
Right. Well, in some cases, and this will be determined by different countries and the way the internal insurance companies work, is whether the accident would have to be declared and then recorded. Now, sometimes in some countries, anything that causes structural damage may be at a point where it is actually recorded. So there'll be some reference that that car has been repaired. If it's not as bad as that, then really there's no necessity to record these things, especially if it was all outer body work, because the outer body doesn't really affect the overall integrity or safety of the vehicle. The only time the value will be affected from that point would be having an inspection and then realizing that, oh, this has had a repair before. So as a buyer, I might say, aha, I can see the whole side of this vehicle is being painted. I will offer you less money, or I believe this vehicle is valued at less of a price. And if you take reference work such as Glasses Guide, which is a UK publication which publishes new and used car valuations, it's like there's a book like this, but it's only a guideline, and the guidelines will assume whether the vehicle up to a certain point is classed as good, very good, exceptional, previous damage, only small amounts. But if it's structurally damaged and they know about it, then they will be reluctant to put a final price on there unless they can determine it's being done safely, and then you would need a third-party test through a government agency or something related.
There is one of the participants is asking, if we are going to do a vehicle valuation and we know it has a damage, can a valuer know the car is repaired correctly, or he need to send it to a specialized workshop to tell him what type of damage and if the car is fixed correctly or not?
Right. Well, there's 3 ways to tackle that. Number one, you as the valuer, do you have experience within that market sector of looking at vehicles? Because like anything else, the more you do, the more you learn. Number 2, if you know the vehicle's been repaired and you know the location that the repair was carried out, depending on that repair shop, and if it's accredited by a manufacturer and they have the trained staff and everything, then there should be no worries that it's being done correctly. And then finally, the only other way around that is to take it to an actual company who will test it for you for roadworthiness. So in some countries, it would be the Automobile Association or some other, or a government testing station. And you can see whether it will pass the test or not, and then they'll tell you as to why it hasn't, or yes, it has. That's it, really. There's no other way to determine that.
And we have another question also from Mr. Christian Fassi. He is wondering, there is something called international standard for damaged car valuation. And why countries is not going through this path? Not like Taqeem. There is government who is drafting the standards all over.
Well, when it comes to a standards, you see, it's safety. Everything is pinned on safety. So if you have a health and safety legislation that actually encompasses the motor industry from a repair point of view, then there is a standard, and that standard would be adopted by whichever country wanted to pay into that program. And for instance, you have Euro NCAP, which is a new car testing organization, which will test any new car that is put out, and they'll give it a 5-star rating. Now, from a valuation point of view, when the car goes through a repair process, if we were to retest it under those testing guidelines, then it should actually pass the test with the same star value. So if it was a 5-star before, and then we crash it after repair, it should achieve 5-star status again. Now, how do we know that these things happen? Well, there is organizations who do repair research, and you have one in the UK. They crash vehicles that have been repaired, and they'll do different areas of a vehicle. So they'll take one type of vehicle, for argument's sake, let's say a BMW. We crash test it on one corner, we crash test it on another corner. Each time we do replacement panels and do the whole repair procedure. The car will be crashed into the side, it'll be crashed into the rear. All the common factors, all the common types of accidents, and the vehicle will then be reassessed to those standards that are set by the institute. So in Europe, it is Euro NCAP. So that is one way where you can measure. Those standards then are transferred into repair procedures, which are then given through to manufacturers or in conjunction with manufacturers, and then they are fed into the network. So the body shop should have access to all this information.
But I will ask another question also. What percentage of countries that they are following these standards? I think it is 2 or 3 countries worldwide, right?
No. Like, as I said, most of Europe follows that, and quite a lot of North America does as well. They have their own systems in place, and parts of Asia now as well. So if we look at Korea, for example, there's testing going on over there, and standards are raised. Now, by the same token, these organizations work together as well. They share a lot of common grounds. So therefore, they'll be sharing information. But it's having the will to go forward with it, because as we've been talking, we've talked about the value of the car and estimated, and then we look at how the value might be changed due to good or bad repairs. These things are all completely interlinked. So if you have a good health and safety network that follows part of that industry in the country, and you, for example, in the UK, we have the British Standards Institute. Now, most of the insurance companies now will only deal with a company that is registered under the BSI kite mark. To get that registration, you have to have the right type of equipment as recommended by the manufacturers, and your staff have to attain a certain level of training, and they will be retested every several years to maintain their competence levels, because materials change, equipment changes and all this. So there's a direct link and correlation between all these things, from the Euro NCAP side of things right through to the way the insurance companies work. The insurance companies are the ones who are pushing the repair industry to do it the right way. And ultimately it gets repaired the right way. And then at the end of that, customer satisfaction, the value of the car is upheld. And most importantly of all, the car is back to the same standard it was when it was first manufactured, with the same safety.
Sorry for interruption, but we need, if you want to continue, you can continue.
Yeah,
Okay.
you can continue.
Sorry?
You can continue.
Thank you very much. So as we've just said, a lot of that we've just covered what I'm about to talk about. So part panel replacement, just a very quick one. Very common many years ago, less so now because of the materials used. Is the repair process recommended by the manufacturer? And this is a key point, If the car is being estimated, the estimation should be following these same type of standards. To install a part panel, key factors should be considered regarding these materials that are used. So if we look at this side cutaway, so a typical area that undergoes part panel replacement is the B pillar. The B pillar is typically the part where your rear door hinges are. So it's the center of the car, center of the passenger compartment. And you would normally put the whole panel in. So you have to insert it from top to bottom. There will be a recommended welding process that goes with this. And to deviate from that will make this area unsafe. Now, this is critical to passenger safety, this thing, or occupant safety. And however, if we do a part panel, then it is possible that the repair is cutting straight where that line is. And that area will be a high strength steel or an ultra high strength steel. Why is that important? Well, a lot of manufacturers recommend that you cannot part weld these because the process of welding actually damages the material. And when I say damage, it can weaken it by more than 50%. So you can imagine if we do a repair like that and then the car is hit again, then this could cost somebody their life, basically. Now, damage like this, if you want to do from a value perspective, is hard to locate. But if you do simple things like remove the rubber that is on the side of the pillar, which seals the door, if you move that, you can have a look and you'll probably be able to find whether the welding process is done correctly or not. One typical thing to look for was, is there genuine spot welds there, or is it plug welding? And there's a big difference between the two. I won't go into it on here because it would take too long. Aluminium, although it's a metal, requires a different approach when carrying out repairs for various reasons. The welding of aluminium also differs to that of steel, and most workshops, and it doesn't matter where we are in the world, a lot of workshops are having a problem with this material at the moment. In fact, there's a lot of wastage because they just rather replace parts rather than repair them. So the effect on the overall value is the car is not safe. It may fail a vehicle inspection next time, which is going to leave a very irate owner. Failed inspection means no registration. No registration is very difficult to sell that on. The vehicle is now only valued as scrap or spare parts. And that's the end of its life. But if we have a robust system from start to finish, we put a lot of emphasis on the vehicle valuation in terms of estimating for damage. But that is only as good as what comes after that. If your repair network is not matching the same standard, then the two just don't, they're like opposing magnets. They don't work together. And it's in everybody's interest, not just from the safety point of view, but if we want to keep the values of cars up and second-hand market thriving and so on and so forth, all these steps should be put into place. Rental companies, lease companies, logistics, all these above companies would list the vehicle amongst its assets. So if you end up with a lot of vehicles within your fleet that are being poorly repaired, and it comes to a point that a valuation is going to be carried out, then the valuer may determine that there's not as much value as you hope there would be in the first place. So we have been talking about cars, but obviously trucks and other heavy goods vehicles all around all come under the same components, really. And trucks can suffer the exact same fate as a car in terms of bad repairs or bad estimating as well. So they all come twofold together. So what's the solution? There's awareness. The insurance companies need to be a driving factor, because if they drive things, everybody else will have to follow. If you're not a recommended repairer and you do things properly, the insurance company should ignore you. The government intervention from a health and safety standpoint anyway, to make sure that a vehicle goes back on the road safely. Imagine if we had no intervention on building buildings. And as we've seen recently with the devastation of earthquakes, people being arrested in Turkey for badly built buildings. Training. Everybody in any job anywhere should always have training. We can only improve by improving ourselves and investing in the companies. And the manufacturers driving some of this. Now, one thing I would note about manufacturers is you may know of a brand, but sometimes in a country, the importer is not the manufacturer themselves. It's a private business enterprise. And being such a thing, they don't always have to follow what is recommended by the manufacturer. The manufacturer lets them through the hole because they're selling lots of vehicles, so they don't want to upset the apple cart. That goes on. We at Taqeem are trying to address this problem by offering these type of services. So we train people from estimating all the way through and do all the body repair skills as well, either on site or at the actual facilities where they work. And as you can see, we have a learning pathway of many course types to address all these situations. And if the repair network is following these training methods and we have the estimators trained in what they're doing, these pieces should interlock and match. And at the end of the day, we have a vehicle that is maintained, it's health and safety, but more importantly, it's going to be the value that the customer wanted in the first place. And I thank you for your time. If there's any more questions that anybody might have, fire at me.
Thank you, Venon. I've got 2 questions that I have.
Okay.
The first one is from Adebayo, Adesola. He's saying, is there a manual for professionals in specialized field of valuers? Like maybe for valuers to be specialized in the evaluation of damaged vehicles. Is there any manual?
There's not a manual that I know of something that exists because, to be honest, most of the evaluation part, if you want to look at it like that, would be from an estimating point of view. However, there is publications such as Glasses Guide in the UK who give a value to new vehicles and used vehicles. And it's a reference guide that second-hand car dealers use. So when they go to trade a vehicle, they look up Glasses Guide and it'll have a vehicle and it'll talk about all the different types of variants and the specifications, the year, the mileage, and it'll give you an overall figure of what that value should actually be. So in terms of a manual, that's the nearest that I can actually think of. The problem is there's no, as somebody said earlier in a previous question, there is no one size that fits all for every country, because unfortunately not all countries are aligned with certain aspects of what they do. But as a starting point to get to know something like that, I would suggest doing a lot of it's self-research and maybe do some kind of estimating course to give you an idea of what you're looking at.
Okay, thank you. I would also want to add on to that. Taqiim, we have started preparing material, training material on motor vehicle valuation. But I think we are going to expand into that, because initially our material that we have currently prepared are on the motor vehicle, the actual motor vehicles as well. But this does not involve the damaged motor vehicle, like assessing and trying to come up with the value for that. But it's something that we are working on. But currently, this year, we are going to launch a course on motor vehicle valuations as a specialty in machinery and equipment valuation, where people who are trained from vehicle damage assessment, who have passed vehicle damage assessment, can now utilize that information that they have gained from vehicle VDA, I'll call it VDA. Then they will make use of that information when they are getting skills in valuation of motor vehicles. But eventually, that's where we are going to end up to, where we will have an assessment valuation, the actual valuation of damaged cars before even they repaired. Someone would want to have an assessment of that kind of car so that and see how worth it is when they put that on the market. But currently, Taqiim has got only a module on motor vehicles, on valuation of motor vehicles.
Yeah. At the end of the day, the whole thing about the value of the vehicles is is based on percentages. As soon as a car drives out of the showroom, you knock 5% off or 10% of its value, even if it's only just 2 kilometers. Now it is become second hand. Obviously, as soon as the mileage comes into reference with this, another percentage is knocked off, and so on and so forth. What are the specifications in terms of extras? Do we have a cigarette lighter or something fancy? If not, then another percentage comes off. And this is pretty much how the glasses guide in the UK works. It works on a percentage reference point. So it's not so difficult overall to think about. The difficulty comes into all the different brands and the models and the specifications. That's the hard part, to link up and to come up with a true value. So in terms of what you just said, Rookah, if you're going to cover some of that, then bravo. Hello?
I think Rookah, he has difficulties with the connection. Rookah, can you hear us? Rookah.
Yes, the second question that I have is going by the presentation. It seems the valuation of damaged vehicle is at instance of insurance companies. What is your take on this?
Oh, that is pretty correct. And as I said, that works on a percentage wise. So Ibrahim is probably best able to answer this particular question.
In our scenario, we have something different than the rest of the world, I think. Taqeem board first have the initiative to separate the valuation from insurance companies and to have it as independent valuer. The valuer or the assessor of the damage, he will be under Taqeem. He will issue his report independently without going under a workshop or under insurance company. that gives a report more credibility on the market. I think this is the correct answer for this question, because if you look at the rest of the world, always the assessors, they are under insurance companies, or insurance companies hires workshops, body workshops or something like that, to assess the vehicles and the damage. And if you look at this two type of situation, if the assessor under insurance company, he will look for reducing the cost as much as he can to save money for the insurance company. And if you looked at the other way, if the assessor under a workshop, he want to make as much as possible from this damaged car to get it done through his workshop. But through تقييم, we make it all about independent. To be independent valuer, he cares only about safety and return the car back in good condition to the road. This is the main interest of our valuer will be. I hope I answered the question.
Okay, that's fine. But I also want to add on to that is it all depends again with the purpose of valuation. Maybe someone wants to dispose that salvage or the wreckage away. Is it possible to do evaluation of that wreckage before it is sent for valuation? Sorry, for disposal. Maybe someone wants to sell.
From a damaged vehicle, you mean?
Yeah, suppose it's a wreckage from the accident, the remainder of the accident. Can someone sell it? Or an assessor, can he do evaluation?
Yeah, there'll be a scrap valuation on that, and some of that will depend on what parts of the vehicle actually survive, and also depending on the country, the legal aspect of selling any components from that car. And don't forget, there's a lot of electronic devices now in vehicles, and one thing or another. And to give one example here, electric vehicles. One thing that people are doing now, and I've heard of this from the conference last week, cars of scrap value, they're taking the battery out and selling it as second-hand. If there's been any damage in any area of the battery compartment, the battery has to be disposed of, or gotten rid of, or whatever. It should not go back into circulation because of the dangers of fire and everything else. But so some regulation needs to come around about that. But yeah, the value will be determined on the aspects of what you can get for those particular parts, I suppose. And Ibrahim might be able to add something to that.
Here in Saudi, in our situation, we are calculating the scrap value according to the spare parts that will be in use. And if you are imagine, there is some parts on the car after the damage will give the car value more than it's worth on the market itself. Like what Vernon says, if it is a hybrid or electric vehicle and the damage sustained to the chassis leg and the battery is intact, there is nothing related to the battery. Maybe they can sell the battery more than the current value of the vehicle, but the customer or the valuer need to take care of this points, and he should know what is requested and what is the demand on the spare parts also as a second hand.
Okay, that's fine. I've got another question. It's in Arabic. I've translated it. Regarding aluminium parts, is it possible to repair them with excellent quality?
Great question. Yes, quite a number of repairs can be carried out, but you'll need certain types of equipment to do it, and the people in question need a bit of training because the method differs slightly to steel. However, there is some types of aluminium that cannot be repaired. So this is cast aluminium, which is typically a suspension turret or something like that, or even a cross member. And also, trying to think of the word now. Anyway, there is other types of aluminium panels that can not be repaired at all, not recommended. But if it's fenders and doors, it depends on the amount of damage, like anything else. But yes, when you repair them, yes, I would like to add chassis. You cannot put a aluminium chassis onto a body chassis alignment equipment and pull it like you can with steel, because of the way aluminium will fall apart. It tears very easily, even the stronger parts. And also because of the riveting and the bonding that is used, the rivets will get displaced and the bonding will break apart. And once the bonding comes apart, the only way you can reinstate it is to remove all the parts associated in that area, which will be something you wouldn't have wanted to do in the first place. So then the cost is going to be huge. So there's limitations, but yes, you can repair quite a lot.
Okay, thank you.
Let's say in general, all the outer panels can be repaired easily, right?
To a degree, depends on the extent of the damage, obviously, and if the strengtheners in the way and the access and all this kind of stuff. So yes, some of it can, but like I say, it does depend on the extent of the damage.
Okay, that's fine. Thanks. Another question. As a valuer, do we require some knowledge of engineering to successfully carry out valuation of motor vehicles?
I would say there will be, not necessarily using the word engineering, but maybe some insight into mechanical knowledge, at least for the running aspects of the car, suspension and things like that. Maybe a little bit of knowledge around a cooling system, and having a basic understanding of repair methods as well. All these things joined together. I wouldn't say you have to be 100% expert in any of those areas, but to be able to recognize some things, I suppose that's the best way I can answer that one myself.
Yeah, in terms of international valuation standards, there is IVS Framework 50, which deals with competence. It means you need to have knowledge, skills, and experience on the type of valuation that you are doing in terms of motor vehicles. You have to have an understanding of what a motor vehicle is, right, in terms of different classes. You have to be knowledgeable about the basic technology of a car, the shape, the bumpers, and all those things that you must have an understanding of it as well. And you must have an understanding of the market that you are dealing with.
Obviously, if I could just interject there, to become a vehicle damage estimator, you don't necessarily need any background in motor vehicle. You could get through the whole thing. Does it make you better at it? Well, maybe not, but you could get through the test and everything. So you would have to, experience in any field is good, obviously. The best of the best are always going to be those ones who know. Simple as that. I could learn to drive a bus, but I don't know where all the bus stops are. So same kind of thing.
Yeah, but I think it's best to have a competence in that field.
Always best.
That is very, very important.
Yeah, it's always best. Sometimes,
you know, I've seen some, as an appraiser review a person, I've come across a lot of valuations where they talk of a motor vehicle, they'll just say Mazda 2-door or Mazda 5-door, right? If you say Mazda 5-door motor vehicle, which motor vehicle are you talking about, right? So it boils down back to the competence. Do you have the knowledge? Do you have the understanding of the kind of cars that you are dealing with?
Well, that doesn't take mechanical knowledge. So, for example, a second-hand car dealer may know his cars, but it doesn't mean, number one, he knows how to repair them, or number two, he's a mechanic. But he understands the fundamentals of how he's going to value those things, learned from experience, as you said, and this is just being involved in that market over a period of time. Like real estate valuation, when you go through all the assessment process, you have to put hundreds of hours in of real time estimating or valuation, which then comes back and gets dissected by the awarding bodies and principals for that before you get allocated your badge of honor. So it's in much the same way, but
Can you hear me, Venon?
His internet was cut down.
Hello, Ibrahim.
Yeah, his internet, he has an issues with the connection.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, do you have anything to add on the motor vehicle valuation about getting the knowledge?
We have another question from our guests, I think, Muhammad.
Can you read that one in Arabic?
Yes. هناك بعض المركبات قيمتها السوقية مرتفعة بقيمة قطع الغيار وتكاليف إصلاحها بالوكلاء. Now, for this type of vehicles, it depends on the demand on the market for the value, because maybe the whole spare parts and the vehicle itself, if I buy it as a spare part, it will cost me, let's say, 100,000 riyals or $100,000. But if I want to get the same vehicle as it is from the market, it will cost me 200,000 riyals or dollars. It is all about the market demands. If the car in high demand, the price will increase, regardless the spare parts price. We have something like Lexus here in Saudi. The Lexus spare parts is cheap, but the vehicle itself is very expensive because of the high demand on the vehicle itself. If we went vice versa, if we go to Jeep Cherokees, for example, the Jeep Cherokee 2006, I can get a full vehicle within 15,000 riyal. But for a hood only, if I need to buy it as a spare part, it will be more than 17,000 riyal. See the difference between the demand of the market in both cars. This will affect also what will affect the valuation as a scrap or as a new, or I want to value a car without an accident.
I can say this is the market dynamics that one should learn as a valuer to look, because every brand name or a type class of vehicles, they've got their own market niche as well. So you need to have a knowledge. You must be knowledgeable about the market. What type of market is it? And what type of car is it? Is it a luxury car? Is it a hyper car? Those supercars like Ferrari and all those things, they've got a different market that you can deal with. And if you look at those classic cars as well, they are treated differently when it comes to valuation. Oh, yes. So it gets
classic car market is a whole different area, because that's a very difficult one, because you might have two cars and there's only two in the world. How are you going to value those? There's nothing to base it on.
Right. And, that's correct. So in some situations, it's very expensive with the other type of cars. It's very expensive to repair them than to buy a new car, right? And then there are certain cars, they are very cheaper to buy them or very cheaper to repair them than to buy them when they are new. So These are things that you have to learn. If you look at the Nigerian market, we don't know the Nigerian market, how it looks like. But that is something that you should learn as a valuer and look at the market dynamics and say what is driving the values of motor vehicles. Is it because of the brand? Is it because of the availability of spare parts? Is it because of the country of origin where they are manufactured? All those have got effects on the value
popularity
that you come up.
Popularity plays a big part as well.
Yes.
So there's certain brands of cars which will hold their value based on how many numbers are actually in the market and how many people are actually buying them. This affects it a lot. Certain cars, even though personally you might think there's not a lot of value in it, it suddenly is valued much higher than any of its contemporaries. This happens as well. So many key factors in there, many.
Okay, Ibrahim, there's another question in Arabic. Can you read the question?
They are saying, as insurance company, some of spare parts prices, they are higher than the value of the car itself. And this is, we will go back to the same circle, that when we speak about BMWs, Mercedes, Volkswagens, there is a spare parts, one spare part or two spare parts will, the value of the spare parts will be more than the value of the car itself as a second hand. We have a big example also about this type of cars like BMW 7 Series. If you have 730 or 740, 2012, the market price of this car is around 30 to 40,000 riyals. But for single headlight, left or right, it costs around 15,000. That two headlights is equal the price of the car itself. Then it is not worthwhile to maintain this car or to repair it. Then you will throw it as a total loss. This depends on the spare parts suppliers. Maybe you can source this parts from scrapyard, or you can get it from abroad. But in local market, you will find it very expensive.
And if I can add one thing to that, I attended a vehicle repair conference last week, and it had many insurance companies there as well. And one of the case studies was a Mercedes vehicle, an electric one, which had small damage on the underside of it, and small. There was a dent. The car was a total loss because you have to assume that the electric battery had some damage to it, unseen damage, so you can't take a chance. And the new battery for this particular car is $105,000 US. So you can see why that car was written off. It only needed one part, gone.
Yeah, that's true. I've got another question, quite insightful presentation. Please, can we have the slides for further reference? We will arrange with your institute on how we can provide that one at the end of the presentation. We'll arrange so that it can be shared with you from your institute. And I've got another edition from Adimola. Just to add, most common car brands in Nigeria are Honda and Toyota. Like 60% of vehicles on the road are either Honda or Toyota, compared with other brands like BMW, Nissan, and Mercedes-Benz. Expensive price for brand new, expensive price for second-hand, as well as spare parts for these brands. You know, these cars like Mercedes-Benz and BMW, they are in the category which is called luxury cars. They are called luxury cars. So the brand name, if you look at it's something that you need to look at the valuer. The brand name has got an effect on the value at the end of the day. And another thing is you need to look at the resale value. You are selling a BMW 740 in Nigeria. How many people are interested in buying the luxury vehicle? If you compare with Toyota and Honda, those are we can say those are budget cars or very economic cars. They are cheaper to buy, cheaper to maintain. That's why they are very popular.
And they almost have a fixed price. And this goes back to the popularity. Popularity might be driven by the actual numbers, but you can almost have a fixed price within the second-hand market because of this, because they know they can sell them. You know, it's supply and demand, that old wording.
Honestly, yeah, it's the resale, they are resellable, right? It's easy to resell a Toyota because of the nature in terms of it's easy to you can get the space anyway. Yeah. Unlike BMW, it's not easy to get it. And
the public at large are very familiar with these vehicles, so they'll understand how they last, how they are mechanically, and how they perform. So again, it goes back to this popularity thing, which drives that valuation. I mean, they're probably way overvalued in terms of comparing it to another country, but that is your market that's exploited with that brand. So it's the way it goes.
Yeah, you find most I'm not sure about Nigeria. Most African countries, they don't have, except for South Africa. That's where most of the brands are manufactured. If you look at Ford, all the Ford that we have here in Middle East and Africa and other areas, they are coming from South Africa assembly line, except for F-150. That is the one that comes straight from the USA. But the rest of them, they are manufactured in South Africa. If we look at right-hand drive, Mercedes-Benz, BMWs, they all come from South Africa. But the rest of African countries, they don't have manufacturing lines. So as a result, you find importing a car, is particularly a brand new car, you are bound to have double the price because of duty and other costs. So these are things that can prohibit people from buying such kind of luxury cars. As a result, Toyota and Honda, most of them, they are called ex-Japanese because they are exported from Japan, they are imported from Japan as second-hand cars. So these are the cars that are flooding the market, particularly in East Africa, particularly in most parts of Africa. So that's why it's easy to have them. That's why Ademola is talking about 60%, because most of these cars, they are not originally manufactured there, but they were imported as second-hand cars. And so that's why it's easy for them to exchange hands.
Yeah, but then you have to also ask, because I've had personal experience of this, passing between two African nations and having a valuation put on my car at the border.
Yes.
Believe me, my car was 10 years old and a very faded paint job, and yet it was kind of valued like a brand new Mercedes. I don't know where this price came from.
Yeah, because you know, it's the issue of importing vehicles. You know, that is a source of revenue for most governments. So that's why they have got such kind of charges. There's Adebayo, he has got an input, a question. He's saying regulatory authority in charge of valuers in Nigeria published valuation template for Nigerian valuers for land and building valuation. Is there any valuation template to guide valuers who are embarking on motor vehicle damaged vehicle valuation? and how does valuer calculate his or her professional fees on these aspects of valuation? I'm not sure. I'm not going to answer for the Nigerian Institute, but in case of us with Taqiim, we have got a manual for motor vehicle, for machinery equipment valuation that is guiding our valuers in terms of the valuation and guiding them on valuation. Like what we have said, we are also working on the inclusion of the valuation of damaged vehicle in our manual as well. It's something that is ongoing, and Ibrahim and our department, they are working together so that they can come up with a solid document. But I'm not sure about the Nigerian scenario. And in terms of the professional fees as well, I cannot answer, but in our situation in Taqiim in Saudi Arabia, we base on not on the outcome, not scale of fees like the value that the valuer come up with, and then you get a percentage, but it's based on the office charge out rates. How many hours are you going to take to do the valuation? That's how we normally do our professional fees. So I guess the Nigerian team will respond to that in due season. Then another one I've got in Adimola as well. You are very correct. Very easy to sell a Toyota 2003 model in 2023 than a Mercedes-Benz or BMW. It's a comment. And there is a question in Arabic. Ibrahim, can you assist us on that one?
Is asking about.
Can you speak up, please?
Classic cars valuations. And he is asking in particular about the GMC pickup. And to answer this question exactly, there is some cars in some countries they considered as a classic, but in different regions they are not classic. They are regular type of cars. That when we say classic, it's a classic depends on the country. If maybe I can import the same car, which is a classic, to the same country with cheaper than the car itself in the same country, if it is allowed. That means it will affect the things that we call it a classic. And if it's a really classic car, it will be rare or a classic in all over the world. That is, this car in particular, you cannot find it anywhere to get the same value or to valuate it. But to value, let's say, a classic car in the same country, maybe Roka can contribute on this and put more inputs regarding classic cars on the same region than different than the whole world. What do you think, Roka?
Looks like his internet's gone as well. Yeah, the classic car valuation, you're right on that one. It differs world over. I mean, I've had a car in my own country that was deemed a classic, but I know in other countries in Europe, they wouldn't give it a second glance. To them, it was just a piece of scrap on the road. To me, it was everything. So there is finite differences. And also, if we look at the region of the Middle East, Ibrahim, you'll probably know this one anyway, is how a Nissan Patrol can hold its value, especially importing across borders here.
Nissan Patrols or Land Cruisers, old American muscle cars also can hold the value, but on the region itself. But if you go to America or Mexico, or if you are transporting Ford Mustang maybe to European countries, no one will take it, maybe due to the taxes, fuel consumption, and these things. No one will consider it as a classic car, or it will not hold any value. The value of classic cars depends on supply and demand also in the same country. And if it is easy to be imported or not, also one of the items need to be considered. Also spare parts. Let's say if I am importing MG car from UK here to the region, and it's a brand new with original spare parts, and the price of that car maybe 20,000 euros or pounds in UK, but here in Saudi maybe no one will take it for 2,000 riyals. It depends on the car itself. It will hold its value or not. And the classic car market is different, and how to name it as a classic also different. It is not that much, let's say, easy to classify a car as a classic. There is some websites classifies classic cars and it is counted like Heritage or something. They are dedicated website to tell you this car is a classic and it can hold the value all over the world, not in a specific location, let's say.
And then another one to add to that one, if you remember last year, Ibrahim, where we had that bit of a case study that came through one of the estimating centres, and it was supposedly a classic Bentley. Remember that one?
Yeah,
And that turned out, and the customer, if memory serves me, was just insisting that the value of this vehicle was 1 million. But we actually found out by research, it's actually a kit car and its real value was less than 10,000. So a huge difference. And that was that one person's perception and what he had, but he bought wrong. However, as a demonstration of that story, a value could go very wrong if you're not very careful at knowing what you're looking at, especially in the classic market, because you can get fakes.
Roka with us again?
Yeah, I think I'm back. I lost.
There is another question in Arabic. They say the valuation sector has been evolved dramatically and goes in different ways. Why there is now no such a report that can I go through and fill the numbers inside and give me the correct value? Why it is always up and down and there is percentage?
Why it is up and down?
Why it is goes to the guess of the valuer at the end of the report?
Okay, why it is not like automated? Am I right, Ibrahim?
Your voice was cutting off.
Okay. I'm saying, do you mean to say why there is not an automated valuation model for motor vehicles? That's all. Where people, they had to do the manual calculation and what? Am I right?
This is the question, yes.
Yeah, because, yeah, I think a lot of people have come up with automated valuation manual models as well to do the calculation of motor vehicles. But there are a lot of assumptions that they've used, right, to come up with the model. So as a result, sometimes it does not give the correct picture of what the motor vehicles is, because they sometimes don't follow what is the market. You know, the market is always changing. But if we are using a model that is automated, where you just input the date and other details about the car, and then boom, you expect to get a value. It has its own limitations. So from my understanding, motor vehicle evaluation per se, it's an art and science. So it means there is an element of human input where you have to use your personal judgment based on your knowledge and experience or on the subject matter that you are doing. That's where you find the difference coming in. So most people, like valuers, they are not comfortable. Even myself, I'm not comfortable using automated valuation models because of that. They don't allow me to have my input based on my experience and the knowledge about the motor vehicle valuation market, or the market where the motor vehicle is being valued.
And that's very much being abreast of market trends as well. It's a fluid environment. It's not like a fixed asset of a factory or something. Almost everybody who's anybody is involved in motor vehicles at some point in their life. So it's the second most expensive thing the average person buys. So, and because of this, that market is so fluid. So as you were saying, experience is definitely born from that, because things change, or they can change at a rapid pace as well.
Yeah, exactly. Because automated, yeah, it's an easy thing of the working with, but how you must understand how the model has been built and what are the parameters that they have used and the assumptions as well. So like what I said, they use a lot of assumptions. Some of them, they are really a little bit biased if you compare with what is on the ground. I would rather use the automated valuation models as a tool which helped me to sort of like verify my figures or to come up with valuation conclusions. But at the end of the day, I'm responsible for the outcome of the valuation, right? So I have to be in charge of the valuation. But if I just rely on the automated valuation model and tell someone this is because this is what is coming out of my model.
Yeah, but that doesn't, and the problem with that is it doesn't actually reference those market changes that I mentioned. That's the problem. And going back to one of your other things that you mentioned is the personal option. So like anything else, if I'm selling a vehicle, you could have 5 dealerships selling exactly the same model with the same specification, and yet the price can vary quite a lot. And in some cases, an honest dealer would actually sell a damaged car, but he would lower the price with reference to that as well, which is another thing that gets thrown into that picture.
Yeah. So those are things, because when you are doing valuation, you need to understand the purpose. What is the purpose of valuation? And what are the needs? What are the requirements of that valuation? Are you doing it for insurance? Are you doing it for a disposal? Are you doing it for purchase? Are you doing it for financial mortgage, right? So those purposes, they will determine the basis of value that you are coming up with. And you need to know the market that you are dealing with. And there are a lot of factors, social, economic factors that you need to work with, and the legal factors as well that you need to consider for you to come up with a valuation, a correct value. So if you now take a model that you don't know the origin, and you don't know the parameters, you don't know the assumptions that came, that built that model, then you are bound to have issues with your client. So the best as a valuer is to understand the model first, so that we can work with it properly. But in my case, I use it just to review, for review purposes. Yes, it can help me on that one.
I mean, there will there'll be some times where the evaluation of certain assets within a big company may become slightly easier because, for argument's sake, you have a factory operation that has 50 delivery trucks and every single truck is exactly the same. Well, that's going to be very helpful. So as soon as you've ascertained the kind of value on one of them, it's a knock-on effect across them all. You can very quickly come up with a price structure for that, can't you?
Yeah, that's correct, Fabien. But now what we are looking at is we are going to look at what is the purpose of valuation. Why do you want that valuation done? Yeah. If it is like for financial reporting, yes, you can make use of the model. But if it is for disposal, you are bound to come down to reality, the market as well. Yeah, so those are things that you need to consider. At the end of the day, you are responsible for the outcome of the valuation.
Exactly.
Yes. Because these days, I can add on, these days, because there are a lot of people who are selling like apps on valuation, models on valuation of assets or motor vehicle as well. So you have to understand the background of that kind of model.
Yeah. We have a question for Maura Luckman. I don't believe we've answered this one. From my 3 years practical experience in KSA, vehicles like Hyundai Accent, Kia, etc. are mostly considered scrap when their airbags are inflated during an accident. Do we give more concern to the level of damage or the brand and reputation of the accident vehicle? Well, actually, one of the reasons for that is, unfortunately, some airbag deployment damages a lot of associated components. So, for example, if you have an airbag that comes straight out of the dashboard, it may be that the whole dashboard has to be replaced because of this, and the price of the dashboard and everything else could be a huge cost. So the car wouldn't be scrapped just because of the safety features that have happened, but it's the amount of damage those safety features actually do when they engage. That's the big problem, and it has been a problem for quite some time. So you might have a knee airbag comes out the bottom of a dash. You've got one that comes out of the steering wheel. You have one that comes out of on the right hand or left hand side of the dash, depending on drive. And then you might have a set of curtain ones that come down. Well, all the covers and associated fittings around all of those get damaged. And also the seat belt, which has a pyrotechnic fire inside the pretensioner, which pulls it back. Also, that whole thing needs to be replaced. So you can see the escalating cost in all of those parts. That's why these ones go that way.
Yeah, if you look at the cost of repairing that, buying a new dashboard or a replacement dashboard, and it becomes more expensive to repair it than just buying a second-hand, a similar second-hand, which is running and which is okay. And
when airbags are deployed, there is other sensors connected to these in the front of the vehicle that may need changing in one thing or another as well. So the price just goes, it can escalate.
And let me add something. It is not just airbags need to be changed. There's some manufacturer says you need to change the whole system of the airbag, and the whole system of the airbag sometimes is not existed or not supplied by the supplier. The manufacturer themselves, they are not supplying the whole system. Then the car can be fixed, but without airbags, without any safety features. And some customers is going to fix their cars and forgetting the airbags inside their cars, or they think we can buy it second-hand, but second-hand airbags cannot be guaranteed that they are working 100% as brand new, because if it is second-hand airbag, it comes from scrapyard, and the car on the scrapyard, maybe it has 10 years, 3 years, 5 years on that place under the sun, under humidity. You cannot guarantee the chemicals inside the airbags will deploy again after the second accident. It doesn't matter that you are returning everything on shape. Matters your life inside the vehicle. And the valuer should consider this type of things when the car has a deployed airbag and the airbag is returned with the manufacturer recommendation, not as a second-hand airbags also, because it will affect the price of the car also.
Okay, that's fine. There's a meshal in Arabic. Can you read for us?
Yeah, this is specialized questions about taqeeim valuers. There is a valuer and there is an associate and there is a fellow. And he is asking what is the difference between this valuers types. You want to answer or you can answer?
I think these are different levels that you get if you pass 401 and 402, you become an associate, and if you pass 403 and 404 and 405 and get accreditation, you become a fellow. So those are different levels of membership that you find. So if you want more information, if you want more detail, you can go on Taqeeim website, and then you get all those information, those details in detail.
And Kevin, also we have a question.
And yes, you can read that one.
Motor vehicle is under plant and equipment scale of fee calculation in Nigeria. I think he is speaking about valuation. It is the same in Saudi. Motor vehicles also, when it is evaluated, it's evaluated under plant and machinery sector. Okay, that's fine. Kevin has said that motor vehicle is under plant and equipment scale of fees calculations in Nigeria. Yes. So that's the question has been answered for Ade Bio, that you get scale of fees that will be properly calculated. You can get in touch with your institute. They will provide all the scale of fees for you to calculate the fees when you are doing evaluation of those kind of vehicles. I've got Bola. He wants to say something. I'm going to unmute Bola so that he can ask his question. Over to you, Bola.
Hello.
Yes, you can spare. Yes, you can come in.
Oh, sorry.
Okay,
the
that's
raised
fine.
hand was, yes. So sorry, the raised hand was a mistake. Thank you.
Okay, fine. It's all right. I think, do we have another question? From Metib.
Metib says he needs more clarification about this thing, about this valuers classifications online, because he went to the website and he doesn't find the clear answer for his question.
Is Metib in Saudi or is it in Saudi Arabia?
Yeah. And I think we can call the BR team. We can get contact with him to answer his question in details.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, that's true. You can get in touch with the so that you can get all the details about the requirements for you to join and become a member as well. Right. So I think we don't have any questions. I think we are done for today. May I just take this opportunity to thank everybody for joining in, our president from the Nigerian side.